Hey, it wasn't. And everybody thinks it was a huge turning point,
No?
but it really wasn't. It gave everybody an idea of, what a wrestler really looked like compared to a boxer. And it kind of gave everybody an idea what a wrestler could do to a boxer that would be restricted with having a pair of boxing gloves on. It's kind of like playing tennis when somebody's got a bazooka on the other side of the net. If a boxer just reaches out and grabs a real wrestler, it's over. If a boxer goes to punch you and a wrestler grabs the boxer, he could pretty much tie him in knots or make him submit or break his arm. So it's not a fair fight.
How good a baseball hitter were you?
Well, for high school, I was pretty good. Little League, 1966, when when we get to the semifinals of the World Series, I was 10 for 14 in the final series. So I was just like, it's a 714 batting average, And I hit more home runs than anybody at Interbay Little League. And then I was scouted when I was playing baseball in 10th and 11th grade. And then I was playing third base, and a guy stepped outside the box and hit a ball down the baseline, off the handle of the bat. And I ran and I picked it up, and underhanded, I threw it on the run to first base, and I broke my arm when I threw the ball. And threw it on the run. And my arm was never the same after that. I had a crazy fastball and a crazy overhanded drop ball. And right in high school, I was throwing like almost 91 miles an hour when I was in 11th grade, because I was real tall and big. And then when I broke my arm, it was never the same.
What athlete would you have liked to have been for a day or for a year? Who would you like to have changed places with in their prime? I would have liked to have been him. Who did you admire as an athlete?
I tell you, I used to love to watch Al Downing, that left-handed pitcher for the Yankees.
Yeah. And the Dodgers gave up home run number 15 to Aaron.
Yeah. So, back in the day, Yastrzemski, it's just hard to say. I always wanted to play professional baseball, but my arm was gone after that. I had never recovered.
All right, let me get some quick thoughts from you on some of the greats you were in the ring with. Roddy Piper, what did you think of him?
Nutcase.
The Iron Sheik.
Greatest gimmick of all time. Way too full of himself,
Dennis Rodman.
One of the few guys that actually could make the transition into wrestling other than Karl Malone. Haven't seen anybody better.
Mr. Wonderful.
Scary, aggressive, just will punish the heck out of you. It wasn't fun to wrestle him.
How about Jay Leno?
Surprised me. His dedication. We set a ring up at NBC. Didn't know if he could pull it off, but he wanted to work out every day in the ring. So for about 5 or 6 weeks, we worked out every day with him. And then when the red light came on, he pulled it off. He was great.
Hulk Hogan joins us on the press box on 590 The Fan, KFNS and KFNS.com. You and Vince McMahon, it wasn't just owner and athlete. It was a relationship. You guys were business associates. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I thought that's what it was, but it was never anything but an employee and an employer. In my mind, I thought I was different because
But he took feedback from you.
Oh, yeah.
He took your ideas.
Well, we worked together. He had never really been in the ring, and until you get in that ring night after night, you get a feel for it. It gets in your blood. You get instinct. So when Vince first took over, he just didn't understand, what that heartbeat was. And so I had a feel for it, what worked, and we worked together, and sometimes he would follow my lead on a lot of creative situations, or we would, talk together about stuff, but there was never, in my mind, I thought I was like family, but the truth was I was just an employee at the end of the day.
I think one of the most amazing things about your book is when you talk about your work ethic in terms of being on the road. We all feel for baseball players if they have to play 11 games in 12 days. Give us an idea of your schedule at its most hectic during the course of a year.
Well, when I was working full time, I was flying 300 days a year, and I was wrestling probably 400, maybe 410, 15 times a year, twice on Saturday, twice on Sunday. I remember specifically walking out of the Philadelphia Spectrum, and we had a 1 o'clock show. And then I was walking out, Gretzky goes, Hogan, would you please sign my hockey stick? And I signed Gretzky's hockey stick, and I ended up talking to him and a couple of the players for a little while, and I just remember driving to Madison Square Garden because we had a double shot that day. Philly in the afternoon that was sold out, Madison Square Garden that night. And when wrestling was in that beginning stage, the Hulk, I mean, anything was running well during the 80s and early 90s, everything sold out. It was, I'm just not saying it. Everything, single thing we touched sold out.
Well, you mentioned Gretzky there. Even though you're this superstar and you're still a kid from Florida, or grew up in the Florida area, and you were born in Georgia. What celebrity did you meet along the way that you said to yourself, "Wow, I can't believe he really knows who I am"? I mean, who did you meet? Oh my gosh, this guy knows me. Was there? Because you met everybody, but who jumped out at you?
Well, I mean, the athletes, that wasn't anything unusual, for Muhammad Ali to say, "Oh, Hogan, you're the greatest of all time." I mean, the athletes, we all had respect for each other. But I guess one guy that surprised me that he knew me was Gene Hackman. Because from the French Connection, I used to love Gene Hackman. All of a sudden, I looked out and there he's sitting at ringside, at the LA Sports Arena. I'm like, huh? And then he wanted to meet me afterwards. I was just really surprised that Gene Hackman, knew Hulk Hogan.
Well, that is that is good. I also want to ask you about how you can turn it on and turn it off. I mean, if you're doing 2 shows a day, and you're the Spectrum, the Madison Square Garden, not only physically, but then with your interviews. I mean, the stuff with Mean Gene Okerlund was just priceless. How did you just all of a sudden turn on all this high energy and this great these great comments?
Well, I mean, it's just part of you. I mean, it's in your blood. You could be sitting here talking, and all of a sudden, the camera would go 3, 2, 1. You go, "Hey, let me tell you something, Mean Gene. 590 The Fan, brother. The greatest stinking radio station in St. Louis. I was doing chin-ups off the art today before I came in to do the interview, brother." And it's kind of like just turning it off and on, and it's that quick, because sometimes I didn't have time to, stretch and warm up, and I'd be flying in from Washington D.C., to San Francisco, and I'd be the main event in Washington. There'd be a 3-hour time change. I'd fly into Frisco, and I'd fly with my boots and all my stuff on, and as soon as I'd hit the ground, I'd get a phone call. "Oh my gosh, the semi-main event just came out of the ring, and there's an intermission. How far are you away from the airport?" "Well, I'm 15 minutes out." "Oh my gosh, we've already gone 2.5 hours." And I just remember just hitting the building, and when I said I was in the parking lot, I could hear my music playing. And so I would actually go from the car, and that was the hardest part, was not to warm up and go from, just normal, on a plane to 30 seconds later someone kicking you in the face or kicking you in the head. That was the hardest transition. The mental one, the hype, "Hey, brother," verbally turn into Hulk Hogan, that was easy. But the hardest part for me would be from, just talking to someone, a stewardess on the plane, and then running to the arena, and the cab driver dropping me off the back door and running in, and all of a sudden sliding in the ring because I was late and having the bad guy just stomped me in the back of the head. That was a hard transition, because it was like having a bucket of ice cold water thrown on you when you aren't ready for it.
Give me a thought on Jesse the Body. How close were you guys? How close are you now?
Oh man, Jesse the Body. I finally understand him. He knows just a little bit about a whole lot of things, and I understand how he got elected, in Minnesota. I saw the debate. I saw how he out-talked the opponents, and how he promised to lengthen the hunting season, and say he could catch another 8 or 9 walleye, so I understand how he got elected. In the wrestling business, he just, I don't know, there's this urban legend about Jesse, and I was in Japan, and I was in Japan for 20 years, and he went one day, and they didn't want him back. And I remember he worked tag teams with a good friend of ours, Adrian Adonis, and I know he worked a couple main events against Bob Backlund in single matches, but he just wasn't a player in our business. And he had the look and he had everything, but he just didn't live it, so he talked the talk, but he didn't really walk the walk like the guys that actually love this business. I remember I was working a singles match one time with him, and I kicked him in the jaw, and his jaw got dislocated, and it popped right back in. I heard about it for 5 years. I mean, what,
Man up, huh?
I don't know what it was. It was different. He's a different cat, man. He's,
Hey, was there ever a better broadcaster in sports history than Mean Gene Okerlund?
No.